So we'll be looking at replication today, where we're going to have a primary and a slave. Those were old names that were used in old version of MySQL. We are still using 5.7. I know there are more advanced versions that refer to those in different names. But because of our versions, then we're going to have a master and then a slave, where everything we write in master is going to be equally written in slave with a very minimal lag, though we won't recognize that. But it happens when your database has a lot of reads and writes. Few things I noticed is that the concepts are not showing up on your side. So you're supposed to be having a concept that shows you how to install MySQL, and then some other things that you are supposed to read. You can access those in the event that we created. Let me see if I'll be able to access that. Yes, so you can access them from here, and then so you have these few concepts. Or if you are able to see the concepts on your project, then it's fine. Also, concepts can also be accessed from this link right here, from the concepts section. So I guess you're good to start. So just like I mentioned, we will be trying to set up our application following one of the resources that was linked in your project, and also following the project itself. We won't be so keen on security side of things, but when you are setting up your production databases, then you need to be keen on the passwords that you set and any other thing security related. So let's start with what replication is. So based on the reads that you have done so far, I believe this project has been around for a few hours now. So who can tell me what basically replication is based on your own reading on the provider resources, or when you're attempting the project? In the chat or just unmute? Yes, Linus.
Yeah, replication in a database is where we have a slave, the master, and a slave just has the same copy of data that is present in the master. Yeah.
Exactly. So just like Lina said, replication is the process that will allow us to be able to have a copy of any changes that we have in our main database into our replica or slave based on the version that you are using. So it allows data changes made on one MySQL server, which in our case is going to be master, to be copied to one or more MySQL servers. Can have multiple slaves. That's what it means by MySQL servers. So we have two main advantages of that. One is redundancy, just in case we lose one of the databases, we still have our data, right? You don't want to lose your customer data because of a failure. So you need to ensure that you are able to get the data even if one of your databases fails. In this case, let's say master fails or replica fails. In either case, you still have your data backed up. And also load distribution, you can distribute the reads. Let's say you have a data analytics team that needs to query your database for their analytics work. You can move that load from your main database and just use the slave, or just let them use the slave. Okay, so those were the two main advantages, and I believe they were mentioned right here. So redundancy and load distribution. So how do we go about setting up a working replication? The first steps are to prepare for that. That would mean creating some databases and also some users that you are going to use for that. In your case, one of the users whom is not required for application that you're supposed to create was the whole button user, which is basically to just enable the checker to be able to view your work. Okay. And also preparing will also involve installing MySQL 5.7. If you install another version, you'll fail the checks because it's checking strictly for that, I believe. So few moments before we started this session, I was installing my SQL, and for me, it's successful. As you can see, I have the required version right there. Same to this other tab right here. So these are my two servers. So this one is web02, and then I have web01 right there. They both have MySQL installed, the required version. For you to install, just go to the event that I was showing you earlier. Let's find it right here, and then check on concepts, just open it and run this command. This should be able to install the required version. There are some things you need to select along the way while you are installing this. So you need to go to the comprehensive guide. This was prepared by one of called 13 learners. So you need to go to this guide. Once you run this command, if it works, then you need to come to this step and ensure that you select the required options, Ubuntu Bionic, and then follow the prompts in order to select. You can see it says 8.0. That's not what you should be seeing. In your case, you're going to see 5.7 and then select that version, click OK. On password, you need to be really careful. If you don't want so much trouble with the project, just leave it blank and then select OK. Cool. So that's how you install the required version of MySQL. And once you install that, you should have everything working just like expected right here. Let's see what's next. So installing, we have it installed. Then we'll need to create a user for the checker and then give that user the required permission in order to be able to run our checks, okay? Another really important thing that you need to take note of is task 3. So if I open this, I see this one. I see this task 3 right here. which required me to add this public key into my server's SSH authorized keys, right? So what you need to do is ensure it's passing. Okay. Once you ensure it's passing, do the same for your web02. Remember this one, I think it's just checking for web01. You need to do for both web01 and web02. What I mean is you need to add this public key to both your servers. Okay. So that the checker can be able to access your servers. Otherwise you won't be able to get the checks correct. Okay, so let's see. So we just mentioned that the next thing is to create this user with that password. Ensure the password is exactly this, because it's a machine who is trying to authenticate into your MySQL and check your work, okay? So ensure it's exactly that. Give the user the permission, but first let's create the user. Let's create the user. And this we need to do for both our servers, okay? So going to clear that. This is web02. Let's start with web01, MySQL. Once we have that, you know how to create a user. So for instance, right now we are required to create a user called hold button user. Hold button user, the host is localhost. And then I think it's identified by the password that you need to give this user, which in our case is exactly that. So paste it right there. Is this the right command? I know we have the commands. I pasted all the commands right here so that we will save time. So at some point, we're just going to be copy pasting them. But right now, let's just ensure we are together with everyone. So this is the right command to create the user. Create that user hold button identified by that. So you need to have a comma right there. Then once you create that user, you have to ensure that the user had the permission to check replication status, by which that permission is granted by this command that is displayed right here. So we want to grant this to that user. And once you have that, you can just run this command to see everything is correct. So show grants for localhost, hold button here. Comment it out. So you can see the user has the required permission. Okay, just like was expected. So we need to do the same for our other server, which is going to just copy that, then create a little bit. So okay. And then grant replication on. Query that. Then you can also verify that the permission are as we expect. And yes, our user has replication permissions. Any questions until that point? Anyone lost? Anyone who just joined and doesn't know what you are doing?
Yes, could you please repeat the process of installing my SQL?
Yeah, sure. So to install my SQL, First, there is a concept that's supposed to be linked to this project. I don't know if you can see it on your side or not, but I noticed, I think you can't because it's supposed to also appear right here. But I linked it on the event that I created for this session. So you can check it out by just going to your events and then check out this link right here to install MySQL. To install MySQL, you just need to copy this command. But there are important prompts that you need to take note of. And to be able to see what you really need to select, just open this guide that will lead you to this right here. So scroll down until this point where you'll see the specific Ubuntu flavor that you need to select. In this case, it's Bionic, and then you select the version. Okay, just ensure that you select 5.7 as your version, and yeah, then click OK. In the password, I advise you leave it blank. Then click OK. By clicking, you just go, you just like navigate using your down arrow or up arrow, depending on where you need to go. So just click down arrow, and then once OK is selected, click enter, then the installation will complete. Okay. I hope that's clear.
Yes, thank you.
Right. Okay, so until this point, what it means is our checker is able to log into our servers and then run the prompts, okay? Or run the commands like this one. So just to emphasize again, ensure that your checker is able to access both your servers. To be able to access, add the public key given in this task to both your servers authorized keys, just like you have been doing. Okay, so I believe until this point we are all good. Let's see. So we have that. Next thing is we need a sample database for us to be able to replicate it. Okay, so that's why we need to, at this point, create a database that we are going to use for replication. We'll create a database and then a table and just a simple record for that. Okay, this will act as a starting point for our replication. Okay, at some point, we're going to take a snapshot of this, then ensure it also exists in our second server, and then like we have a copy of that database in our slave, which is basically web02 as the starting point. And then after there, once we create a record in our master, it's going to be also be copied into our slave database that we're going to have. Okay, so let's create that database. And you are given a specific database name, which is this one right here. And for this, you just need to create it in your master, which we're going to create in our web01. Okay. So let's create that database and then add a simple record into it. So right here, I'm going to say create database. Then the name of the database is this. Then we'll use that and then create a table. Create table going to be Nexus. Six, and then it has a field ID. So ID is going to be an int. Let's say it's auto increment. And then let's make it primary key. Not sure if that's the correct syntax. And then I'm going to say name. Say we have 25 characters. Chat, is this the correct syntax? I'm not sure if there's an underscore or not. But for this one, I'm sure it's correct. Int ID. So let's just refer because I have all the commands right here. Create table that, yeah. So it's good. And then we're going to add just a simple record into our table. So name, values, let's say.
Excuse?
Called, yes.
Insert.
Okay. Thank you. So yeah, so insert into that table that user. And then let's see. So you also need to ensure that, but yeah, so let's give all button user the select permission. So I'm going to grant select on all button local host. So I believe that's correct. Let's see. Oh, so grant select. What's the error here? Let's see. So it's usually grant, then the permission, which user, and then, okay, grant select to that. So
you forgot to specify the table and database you are granting select for local over users to access.
okay. Yeah, thank you. So it's supposed to be on Nexus 6, right?
Yes, sir. Then dot star. It could be all the tables in Nexus dot 6 dot star. That's full stop and then the asterisk sign, so that it's able to access every single table inside of the Nexus 6.
Yeah, but Nexus 6 is a table. It's not a database.
Okay, so which is the database name is supposed to come first, dot, then the table name. So
okay.
the database will be Tyrell_corp dot Nexus 6.
I see. So we need to have that. That should work, right?
Yes, I can try that. See.
Yeah, so seems good. So next thing is to just ensure that we added this correctly, we can run this command. So we can just say use our DB and then just check if everything was added correctly. So select everything from Excel 6. So yeah, so we have David right there. Okay. So let's see. Run replication. So okay. So the next step should be creating a replica user. Okay. So starting this point, we will heavily rely on this resource that was given to you, which basically walks you through how to create a successful replication. So you're going to use this resource right here. It should be accessible on your end also. And I have it opened right here. Okay. Yeah, so our next step is to create a replica user on our master or web01, which is going to be the user we're going to use for replication, and we'll just create it from here. So you can see each replica in MySQL or replication environment connects to the source database with a username and password. So that's what we need to set up for now. And for this, we're going to have the username that the host is every host will be okay. So we won't specify a specific server in our case, and any password that we like to have, okay? And also still at this point, you need to be careful with a password. So you don't create it and then when it's needed, you can't remember it. So let's go ahead and do that. So this is how to create a user with a specific password. So I'm going to just copy that wrongly at first so it doesn't run itself. Be careful when you use the copy because it also copies an extra space, which I believe acts as an enter or something. So this is our web01. Let's paste that command. So user is the same. We need to do some edits here. Host is every host, not specifically replica. So identified by let's make it a bit stronger. So #70. 70. What we need to remember here is the password, okay? So create that user with that. We have an error.
You left the identify with, supposed to be identified by. Yes,
Okay.
we missed out moving the with. So yes.
So copy that. Identified by, yeah. So we don't need this keyword because it didn't specify the table and stuff. Yeah, that works. Thank you. So what next? We need to give it appropriate permissions to replicate to our primary server. And that permission is a replication slave, okay? So grant that. So grants replication slave to that user of ours. Whole button will need select privileges on this. So I believe it's similar to what we did earlier. So let's see if we'll find similar to this, yeah. But now the table is different. Now it's the users table, I believe. So grant select on that. Okay, so let's just ensure this works. I know you can test it from here by just like copying this. Yeah, or we could get out of that and then just run it. Remember, this is how the checker is going to run these commands. It won't be inside your MySQL or database itself. So now you need to provide the password which you are given. So this is how the checker will be testing it. So just ensure it works at this point, not when you are logged in as the root, okay? So we have that. All right, so any questions until that point? Because now we're going to the actual application. Remember, this was just like preparing everything to ensure we are set up to start replicating our database. Any step that you think we missed that will bring us trouble?
I think we are good.
Yeah, so we're good. Yeah. So let's continue that. So now the actual work begins here, where we're going to set up our actual replication. Okay, and the first step is going to be configuring the master. To be able to do that, we go back to our article just to ensure we are at the correct place. Yeah, this is it. So first we'll need to edit our MySQL server configuration in this case, which is found exactly in this file. Another thing to note is that this resource is using MySQL 8 star. Yourself, you are using 5.7, which is quite old version. So you might find, not you might, but we will find the configuration for this file different from exactly how it looks in 8 star version, okay? So some things you're going to need to add them. Something you are told is do not use bind address because we just need to allow any IP for us. So that's something that you want to be using. So let's open our configuration file. So sudo so this is something we were told not to use. So we just need to comment it out, okay? So okay, made a mistake. So. Yeah, so we need to comment that out, okay? Next configuration is what? Bind address we have is commented out. Next is server ID. And here we are going to assign a unique identifier to the to our MySQL instance. So each server is supposed to have a unique ID, okay? Since we do not have any with an ID of 1, then we just need to maintain it that way. Remember, this is across the whole network. Each MySQL server should have a unique ID in this case. For instance, in our network, we have two servers, Web01 and Web02. So inside our slave, which is in Web02, we just need to ensure the ID is not the same as this, okay? So let's go to our, let's copy that and go to our configuration. You are asked to uncomment it, but it's not there in our case. So we basically need to add it. That's what we're going to do. So remove the comment sign and then just ensure that is given an ID of 1. What you need to ensure is that it's unique. Next thing is log bin. This is where the binary log file will be stored. We're going to use the same location. And this option is going to enable binary logging on our server. By server, I mean MySQL server that we have on master. And it's going to be recording changes to the Tyrell Corp database, okay, in binary format, which is then going to be used for replication, okay? So let's just copy it there and then add it as our next line or whatever. I see a lot of files here. So remember, I didn't find this here. In MySQL 8 point something, you're going to find them, but that won't work for the checks. The upgrade hasn't been done yet. So you just have to work with this. So binary log added. The next thing, which is quite straightforward, is our database, which in our case is going to be Tyrell Corp or something. And only the changes to this database will be added or will be reflected in the binary log that we set up earlier using the log bin variable, okay? So we need to copy that. Paste it right there, and then add our database name. Don't know the spelling, but I can copy it from here. Paste it right there. So Tyrell Corp. That's our database name. Next step, just like this is a note. If you have several databases, I don't believe you have them now, you can set them this way or set the ones that you need to ignore, okay? Probably this will come up when you are working on your portfolio project if you are going to choose MySQL as your database. Okay, next thing is saving this. And then restarting MySQL. Restarted, we can check that it's running with status. Yeah, so all good. So those are the steps that we did are quite important. If you miss something, it won't work. And because it's the first time playing around with replication, it's going to be quite difficult to like debug it. Okay, so you just need to be careful when you're setting that. So let's see what next. Remember, basically we're doing this thing here. So once MySQL is restarted, I'm not sure if at this point we need to get the coordinates based on the article that we were following. So let's see. So we set that up, a lot of things. For us, we already have this user from our initial step. Yeah, so the next thing is retrieving binary log coordinates. And this is basically getting the state in which our MySQL server in master is, right? So that's what we're trying to get. That's why we get the file, which was wherever the binary log were being stored, and then the position, exactly like the exact state of our master server. Okay. And to be able to do that, we first need to log the tables for both read and write, just to ensure that when we're taking the snapshot for replication, everything is consistent. So that's why we need to log this first. So something we're going to do. So let me see. Okay. SQL. And then we get the exact status for that. What this does is it's going to display the binary log files used that we used for replication, and will enable us to share the start, or basically where we going to replicate from, the exact correct point in the master binary log. Okay, so that's what we need to do here. So show master status, we get it. So it's that and that. I believe this one is quite the same, but the position is different. Our position is different, just like expected. And then after there, we're going to unlock the tables once we get that position or the master status. But basically, this is if your source doesn't have existing data to migrate. So who can tell me if our source has data to migrate? Does our source have data to migrate, or we need to take these steps as well? Anyone in the chat, or just unmute? Do we have data to migrate, or we need to follow these steps? Nobody. Yeah, so in our case, we have
data to migrate.
Yeah, thanks, Danny. So in our case, we have data to migrate. Remember, we created a database, we created a table, we created a record with the name Dawi. So our next step is not creating a database. Actually, we already did that. Okay. So our next step is basically to take a snapshot of the current state of our of our database. Okay, and that's the snapshot that we're going to create a database with in our slave, just to ensure that they are in the same state before we start doing replication. Okay. So this is how we do it. We have the MySQL dump utility, which is going to enable us to export our database. Okay. I'm sure you have used this before in your project. So just going to copy it. For consistency, we're going to give the same name to our database, okay? So paste that, then have it right there. So creating in the wrong part. So we're not supposed to create from here. Copy it, paste it here. Another thing is, do we need this root thing? I'm not sure, but let's see, because I did this before. So sudo MySQL dump, I believe it's MySQL dump TRL. Yeah, we don't need that root thing. We don't have that here actually. Just going to default one. So by this, we should have the snapshot with this name. So if we do an ls, we find it right there. What we need to do now is to move this from here to our web 02. How can we do that? I need to move this file from web 01 to web 02. What can we use to do that?
We can use SCP.
Yeah, good. So we can use SCP. If you don't know SCP, you can just run man SCP. Secure file copy. So we just enable us to copy our file from one place to another. You also use this when you're moving files from your local machine to your servers. So that's basically what we're going to use. And how to use SCP, I don't need a manual page for that. So we're going to use the tool that we introduced last time, SCP that. So you can see, you can use SCP, file name, which is the path to our key, private key, I mean, and then path to local file, remote host, path to that file, okay? So let me do that. Let's see the command somewhere. So basically, once we created this dump, we will just unlock our table since we already have our snapshot, right? So let's do that. So sudo MySQL, and then just unlock our tables. Once you do that, you can and then we can use the SCP now. So I'm going to copy this. Let's replace it with our details. Our DB is that. We aren't Sami, but Ubuntu, then our IP. Our IP for server 2. Okay, so let me see it right here. Web02 IP, which I'm going to paste it right there. Then let's say SSH private.key. So it will not work because I do not have a private key right now. So you can see it says public permission denied public key. So I need to ensure that I have my private key in this file. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen real quick and then add my key there, because private keys are, I don't want to display it for everyone. So I'll just be right back so that we can move this file. Yeah, so I believe, can you all see my screen?
Yeah, we see your screen.
Yes.
We can see it.
Awesome. So I just added my private key right there. So now what I need to do is run that again. So
You should add the public key in the web server too also.
yeah, I have that. Public key in web server. Yeah, it's there, I believe. So yeah, so SCP. Okay.
I will not add in the negative I for identity.
Oh yeah. That's a good observation. So we forget that. So we have that. I think we need to change the permission for our private key. Oh, there is no permission like that. So let's have that and then our private key. Who can tell me what permission is this? This is octal representation of
Read and write.
read write for the user. Good. So
For
let's
the
not.
owner, yeah.
Sorry?
Oh, read write for the owner.
Owner. Okay. Yeah, for the owner. So we have that. So let's now try.
Could you tell us more about private key? Where did you add it?
I added it in this location. So if you are not using
Which
the
one? Web 2, you added it in Web 1 or?
yeah, web 1, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, when do you use this identity file? It's when you're not using the SSH keygen default path and default files. For instance, when you created a private key and then saved it in school, you had to use this because you are not using like the default path. In your case, well, when you need to move the file, just like someone mentioned, you need to ensure that your public key is also in Web02 so that they can authenticate and move the file. So let's confirm that our file has been moved, just like we've been told.
Sorry,
Yeah.
a quick question, sir. Did you, sir, can you hear me?
Yes.
So during the process of going to do your private key, is it that the private key, did you take your public key and add it to your authorized keys in your Web2, or you have to generate a new key on your Web1 so that you can just do the SCP command with your with your like with SCP command?
Yeah, so you do not need to generate new keys if you already have your old key. So just go to your sandbox, or if you are in your local machine, go there and copy the private key, add it in some location in your Web01. Okay, so once you have it there, go to your profile or your Web0. Okay, the public keys are already in your servers actually, so you do not need to paste them again. They're already there, right? If you added them in your private and then maybe requested a new server, or basically if you can access them currently, then it means here you just need to add your private key because the same public key is already in your Web02, right? If I do cut SSH authorized keys, I find like your keys will already be here, your public keys. So you do not need to add them again. What you need to do is just ensure your private key is in your server. Whatever location, if you need to use the identity file or in the default location. But I encourage you to put it in any location and then reference it using the identity stuff. Okay. Clear?
Yeah, thank you. So
Yeah,
what you
so
just okay.
sorry?
No, I was trying to say that what you just said is that there's no need creating a new SSH key for our Web1. We should just copy our private key and create a space another file for it instead of a .ssh folder if we choose, or any folder that we like. And then whenever we are trying to use SCP to connect to the Web02, we can just do the same thing you did earlier.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, welcome. So now we expect our snapshots to be moved to our Web02. Let's confirm that it was in TMP and we find it right there, okay? So that should be good. So we have it moved. So now we need to create a database and then add the contents of that snapshot into our database, and that we're going to do in Web02. So let's do that really quick. So sudo create the same name. Same name right there. So we create that database, and then after creating it, we're going to ensure that the contents of the snapshots are now saved in our database. Okay. This is really similar to what you are doing when you are working on your earlier projects on databases. So it now the command is going to change. So basically we are taking the contents from our TRL corp database that we imported into this database that we just created. I think the only thing that has changed is the sign writing, the redirection thing. So that's that. Let's ensure the table now exists. Sudo that let's use, yeah. Remember now we are in web 02. So we need to show tables. So from that table, okay, not from, but select all. Select everything from that table. Okay, I forgot from, so. Yeah, so we see the user as reflected right there. Now, remember we did the configuration for the slave. Now we're going to do the same for, we did for master, then now we're going to do the same for slave. Okay. So some configuration file, going to open it up. So let me clear that. Yes. So we said we don't need this. Don't need that. What do we need? It's a server ID. We said it needs to be unique across our network. So now we're going to just give it a value of 2, which is different from our previous one that we gave a value of 1. So paste it right there. Then now give it 2. Most of the files are going to be similar. For instance, log bin. I'm going to add it. Log bin, yeah. Copy that. Add it right there, and then our database name, which is going to be the same. Just like we named it here. And then the only thing that's different is relay log. So what does this do? It's going to be used to store replicated events. So this is where the events are going to be like stored in from the master server before we apply them into our database. Okay, so comes here, then it's applied to our database. And it's basically a path to where the relay log are going to be stored. So relay log, let me copy the whole of it actually. So a little formatting. And with that, we can save that and then restart my SQL. Confirm it's running just to be safe. Status. So next thing is testing our replication, starting and testing our replication. So we're going in our slave and then set up these variables right here. Source host, which is going to be our web 01 IP. We have our user, which is a replica user for our replication. Then we have the password. We have the source log file, and then you can see we have the source position. Okay, so we're going to use those details to be able to set this up. So let's do that quickly. So sudo it's exactly the same thing, except that our version is different, right? So in our case, instead of using replica source, it's going to be master. Instead of using replica, we're going to use slave. Okay, so let's do that. I have that somewhere. So we added all those. So I have this right here. So what we need is just to copy them up one by one. First, host is different, I believe. So going to copy it that way and then get our IP, which is that. Copy the next thing. User is just the same. Going to be the same user in our case. So next is password. It's going to be the same. Next is log. I'm not sure if it's the same or not. So let's just paste it there and then remember that you are getting from your master, which in our case is this one right here. Copy it. Then our final thing. Position, I believe it was 1542. But let's see. Let's confirm. Yeah, it's the same. Then once we have that, next thing is to activate our slave. So in our case, it's going to be start slave instead. Okay. So it's going to be start slave. Start slave right there. Once that's started, next we can check the state of slave to just ensure things are working like we would love them to. Okay. So after that, you can check the details about the current state by running that command. Rearranges. So you need to use this, otherwise your output is going to be hard to read. So that's going to enable us to ensure everything is okay. So you can see we are in replica, but we are able to get the position right there and then the relay bin that we had. Okay, so those are the things that we would love to see. And then source host, master host, replica user. So 100, let's see. Yeah, so same IP. So everything should be good until that point. So if it doesn't work for you, check out these debugging stuff that you need to run and run them and then check if you're able to fix it. So now what we need to do is to go ahead and try creating a table, not a table, but just a record in our master and see if that's replicated here. Okay, so let me do that. So this is web 02, where our slave is. Let's use a database called Tirelco. That's the wrong thing. Use that. And then select all from Nexus 6. So we see we have one record, okay? Same to our master. So sudo MySQL. So same to our master, if we do the same things, for instance, use this. Sorry. And then also that. You can see they are in the same state, right? So we have one record, we have one record. Now, if we try and create or insert something into this table, for instance, insert into Nexus 6, then you give the name, let's say any name, Donald. So okay, insert into that. You need to say name values, right? It's why it's taking so long. Let me quit fast. So insert into that. I believe there is no error in our, I don't know why it's freezing. So let's wait for it to create that. Keeps freezing, I don't know why. Select So we needed to create Donald. Why does it freeze that way?
Instead using the name of the database, you have to use the name of the table. Insert
Sorry?
into the table name.
Okay. So insert into table name. This is
Table
the
name.
table, right? Mhm.
Maybe there should be a space between the table name and the
Space right there. Okay. Same thing. So let's do this. Use short tables. Insert into that name. So or everything is fine. So let's do this. Let's try and create a table. Create table Alex. Then ID int auto increment primary. Back let's say what could be in this table. Let's say the same now. V2 based on 50. Yeah, so this one is taking so long to create a table. Same to inserting a record, so I'm not sure what's the issue. But what we would expect is once we create a table here or insert into one of our already existing tables, we would expect it to be reflected here, okay, in this database on the other side also. So let me try reloading the service itself. Sudo system ctl MySQL. It's daemon reload or something. Let's see. Sudo and then system ctl. So let's use this. MySQL.service. I think reload should work. Otherwise, we're going to use restart. Restart. Yeah. Why I needed to use reload is because it's much safer than restarting everything. If some service was using your database and then do restart, everything just stops. But reload, it's a bit much safer. So let's now try MySQL. Use and then let's use the same command and try to insert into this table. So yeah, query okay. So let's select everything from Nexus 6. So we get 2 users. So we expect that to be reflected here. Sudo MySQL. Don't want to clear it, but let's say use the same database. And then select everything from this one has frozen, so we have to log in again. So we have to SSH into our server 2 again, just to ensure that things have reflected. So web02, copy that IP and then paste it right there. Sudo MySQL. Use copy. Select everything from the table Nexus 6. And yes, so our changes are reflecting. Whenever we make a change in our master, it's reflected in slave. Let's try to add something else. This is master. So going to insert a different thing. Say insert into that. Let's say my name. Reflected and then, okay, this one disconnected. So close that, you don't need it anymore. Close that. So this is our web02. So select again, and you find that that record appears there. And because we are like replicating a specific database, if we try to create even a table under that database, it should also reflect. So I'm looking for something to create a table. I don't need to type the command again. Say, for instance, need to create some table. Otherwise, we'll just have to like create the table ourselves. So let's create a table in web 01. So create table Alex. And then let's say it has an ID, auto increment or not. Let's say it's not, so it's just a primary key. And then let's say learner's name will take, say it's a very long name that explodes. Creatable dot, what's the issue? Corresponds near primary key. Let's make it an auto increment then, if it doesn't. So what's the syntax error that we have? ID
Data type for the ID.
Okay. So it wasn't even, I was guessing it's the auto increment stuff. There's no need to remove it any longer, so we can do an int. Yeah, and we get it right there. And here in our web 02, to ensure that things have reflected here, we can show tables. Show tables. Table there. So you can see here, Alex table is right there. So that's it, how to set up a working replication. Quite a long session for today, because you have to deal with a lot of mistakes and errors. This was quite smooth because we were doing it in a group and it was easy to spot errors, but for you it might be troublesome because you have to debug things by yourself, mostly if you are not like pair programming like we were in this session. So don't get frustrated if things aren't working for the first time. Think what could be the issue and then try implementing that rather than like giving up on the project. So that's it. Any questions?
Okay.
And
I wanted to know. I wanted to know when the video will be available on the server, Discord server.
Yeah, as soon as it's ready. When Zoom sends it to me, then I'll share it with you, both on the internet as an event and also on Discord.
All right.
I wanted to clarify if because when you configure the slave database,
yeah,
you configure the IP for the master. So in the master database, you don't configure an IP for the slave, right?
Yeah, you don't.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. You just need to ensure that slave is able like to read or track changes from master. You're not doing the same configuration. Okay, so if we are good, then we should, that should be it. Thanks so much for joining. Dennis?
Yeah, thank you so much for this timely lecture. It's very important because it's a very new concept through this part. Okay, the question I want to ask from the content provided for us, one of the sources, where they said we should set up the replica as master, but in your configuration you use replica slave. I want to know if both ways can work out or not, because you use the replica slave to link up, that's to sync with the master. But from the digital ocean down there, I saw that they provided should use replica master, something like that.
I didn't get the question clearly because your mic is quite like making some.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I was saying that from the configuration, after when you move the database, the master snapshots to then in one of the configuration, you now set it up as is it replica slave, something like that.
Yeah.
But from from the digital ocean, what they wrote down there was something like replica master or something like that. So I don't know, it's a bit confusing. Yeah, if
Yeah,
that could
yeah,
work
yeah.
too.
Yeah, now I understand your question. It's because of the version of my SQL that we are using. We are using 5.7 and the Digital Ocean article is using 8 point something. So in that version, they got rid of the master slave stuff and found out different names. Just like GitHub got rid of the master branch and then came up with main. So it's the same thing, but in your case, for the sake of this project, you are going to be using master slave because of the version that we are using.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, Paul. Paul, you have your hand up.
Hello. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello.
Yeah, sorry. Actually, I joined it, so I missed a lot of things. So, but I'm actually wanting to know because each time I try to create instance on the to begin my ocean this thing, it's asking me for card. Do I need to put my card there before I can start using it?
What's asking you for card?
The ocean that after using it as a student park and create it's asking me to put my card. So I'm asking, do I need to put my card there before I can start using it?
Which project would you like specify?
I mean, on the digital ocean site, the one that I configure for my student park. So it's asking me to put my card before I can activate it. Do I need to put my card?
I don't think you should use DigitalOcean. What are you trying to get from DigitalOcean?
Okay, is the one that I'm actually talking about from the GitHub student park to create a server that I will use for this particular um as it to spin up the server. I need to um put a card to activate it.
No, you don't. But I don't know why it's asking for that, but let's see. Let's see, for instance, it's the web server project, right? Is it the web server project?
Okay, yes. I'm talking about the, when the training for DevOps. So we are asked to use after you activate your student pack, then to spin up a server. Um, so actually, um, it was asking me then to put a card to activate it, but even though they will not remove any for the 1 year that it will be free, but they are asking me to put my card. So that is what I want to confirm if I should put my card. Not on this. I'm not talking about ALS intranet. I'm talking about the student part for the digital issue.
Okay. So if 1 year ends and they are requesting for a card and you are willing to pay for it, then you can put your card. It just depends. I really don't get clearly the site that you are talking about. But basically it depends. If you are domain expired and the domain period,
No,
because I think it's normally for
it
1
has
year.
not. It's just it was when we entered this session, DevOps session that the last two trainings or so. So we are asked to activate our student pack from GitHub. So when I did, and also the digital ocean, which will give you access to a cloud platform whereby you can spin up a server
Oh
that you
yeah.
can use for test. So when I try to activate my own, it's asking me to put my card details. So, I wanted to get confirmation if I should put my card there.
Okay, yeah. So probably maybe DigitalOcean might not be included in the student pack or something. But what I understand is, right?
It is, yes.
Yeah. But what I understand it provides some servers in form of droplets or something.
Yes. So now
Yeah,
for me to get to that place that I will create droplets, it's asking me to activate my account. By then I have to put my card details before it can get activated. So I wanted to put that information, whether you have it or did you put your card when you activated yours?
I didn't use the droplets. I did not use servers from DigitalOcean. The only thing is just this article that's publicly available. So I just used these servers.
Which one? Okay, the one we have. Okay. So another question I have is that when I activated my web server 1 and 2, I missed the part that said that let me. But now I asked a question and somebody told me, so I've gone to that web 1 and 2 and put the under authorized key, put my key, but still when I do SSH space Ubuntu at the IP address of web server 1, it doesn't connect. What am I not doing?
So I'm really struggling to hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So I'm saying that when I activated my listing, when I went into my web server 1 and web server 2, I added my in the authorized key, I added the one from the intranet that they say for the going to let me in that SSH. So, but I still cannot do SSH from my sandbox to that web 1 as Ubuntu user, except if I have to use option -I and then specify the location of my key before it can go in. Aside that, it doesn't go in without using option I.
Yeah, that's fine. Using option I is fine. if you don't want to use option I, then ensure the keys are in the default location that are normally default location and files.
Yes,
Otherwise, it will not.
default location is .ssh in the web server, right? Under authorized key.
Yes.
Yeah, that is where I did it, but still it's not connecting me as if I
How
do
about
SSH.
How about the file name?
No, I did not specify the file name. I'll just do SSH space user at IP address. Then it didn't go. But if I put SSH space option -I, then the file location in the sandbox, and then space Ubuntu at IP address, then that one will go.
Yeah, I think that's enough. So if that works, then you can just like use that one. But if you need it to work for the default, then you can try generating a new key and in the default path. So just run SSH keygen, generate new keys. Because you already have access to your servers, use the flag I to access them and then add your new public key in your server. Then once you add it, you will be able to like authenticate without necessarily needing to specify the flag I option. Okay. So I believe that's clear.
Yes, yes.
All right. So Mena.
Yeah, I have a question. In this task MySQL, the written MySQL distribute must be at version 5.7. Okay.
Yeah.
When I install it at my server web 1 or web 2, they through an exception package MySQL has no installation candidate. What I do?
Yeah, so you can reinstall it. Ensure you follow this guide. I think this one works for almost every server. Did you follow the guide that I was displaying this on? Man, do you have access to this?
Okay, from chat, a chat here.
I put it in the what I didn't hear.
So can you put it in the chat? The link.
Okay. All right, but be careful when you're following along. If this one works, it means you have to jump to this step and ensure you select the correct options, okay? So select that option, then select 5.7. It's going to show up here.
Okay,
5.7, and then if you like, you can set the password, but ensure you know how to work with passwords or where you will be required to use that password. For instance, if we set password for ourselves here, instead of just saying sudo MySQL, we would have to say sudo MySQL, then flag our username, then the password, okay? So if that's if you decide to set the password, but it's not required. So I will recommend maybe you leave it blank because it's going to work anyway for root. So leaving it blank means that root will not need password, like you saw we were doing. If we ran just sudo MySQL, it just logs us in. So use that. I know the issue you are facing is because this resource, I think, was not linked in your project as a concept. you can access concepts from here, but it's hard to know which one is for which project. So it's a bug on the internet that is going to be fixed after a while, but for now, just work with this. When you see your friends complaining, how do they install MySQL? Just share this concept. So put it in the chat also. It has a link to the actual doc. So I believe if you use that, then everything will be fine.
Okay, thank you.
All right, welcome. So that marks the end of our session today. Thank you so much for joining, and bye-bye for now.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thanks.
Thank you.